What's up, everybody? Welcome to part one of a three-part series, 3 simple steps to prepare for your home buying adventure. I'm going to do a video each week and throw it in my newsletter. We're doing podcast style today. Hopefully my voice sounds a little bit better through your speakers. Step number 1 is going to be to set your goals. If you've done a buyer's consultation or a listing appointment with me or any of the agents on our team, you know that the first thing we ask you is, what are your goals? So prepare yourself and get ahead of the curve. Come this March, springtime, summertime, when you're sitting down to do your buyer consultation, you're going to be well ahead of everyone else. All right, so I like to tell a story before I give you the how to set your goal. All right. And the story goes back to about 2018. I met with a client to do a buyer's consultation with her. And it was the first home she was buying, and she was doing it on her own. We're going to name her Sally. So I meet Sally, and I sit across from her. And back then I was just opening up consultations with, tell me about yourself, let me tell you about me, that kind of thing. We're getting to know each other. And somehow, some point, I just blurted out, Sally, tell me what your goals are. Why do you want to buy a house? What's your goal for buying a house? And that bred the whole step number 1 of the consultation. And what she said was the interesting part. Sally said, I want to buy a house because I've heard it's a great investment. And she's not wrong. She's absolutely right. But I took it a step further and I said, well, tell me a little bit more about what makes that a great investment. And Sally goes, well, growing up, I never owned a home. My parents never owned a home. We would lease a property for 3, 4, 5 years. And then when the landlord decided to up our rent, my parents would go find a new home. And sometimes we had to spend a year in an apartment before we were able to get back into another home. And they would just shop rents. And they never could afford to buy a home. And I said, oh gosh, tell me some more about it. And come to find out, Sally's goal, she didn't realize it at the time, but as I was pressing her, she says, I want to be the first person in my family to actually own a home. And I went, boom, there's your goal. To be the first person in your family to own a home by this summer. And that bred the beginnings of our buyer consultation. Now, that story is a little special to me because Sally went on to buy a home. It was a great house. She loves it. She still lives there now. She has nothing but joy being the first person in her family to buy a home. And I was thrilled to just be a part of that adventure. And so some people, your story may not be like Sally's. It might be that you're very successful and you come from a long line of homeowners and it's your turn to own a home now. And that's perfectly fine. But what I would like you to do is sit down with your spouse, or if you're buying a home by yourself, just by yourself. If you're buying a home with someone, definitely sit down with who you're going into this home with. Each one of you take out a piece of paper and write down for the next 5 minutes why you want to buy a home. Ask yourself why, and then once you come up with that, ask yourself why again, and why again. You need to go about 3 whys deep is what I say. So if you have a consultation with me, I'm going to say, hey, why do you want to buy a home? What's your goal for buying a home? And you're going to say to blank, and I'm going to say why. Why is it to blank? And you're going to say, well, blank. And I'm going to say, interesting. Why to blank? And we're going to do that about 2 or 3 times, and you're going to come to your realization that your goal is to buy a home for a reason. And that is what we were going to use going forward. Your goal is so important because it is what is going to define everything that you do from that step forward. And when the times get tough and things get stressful and it's tough negotiations, or moving is stressing you out, or whatever the case may be, we're going to sit back and say, hey, remember when we talked and you said your goal was to do this? Is that still your goal? Is this decision getting you to your goal? And that's how we're going to plan what you're going to do next. All right. That's it for the step number 1 of setting your goal. Step number 2, just a preview of it, is going to be organizing your finances, your personal finances, next week. So stay tuned for part number 2. I guarantee that baby Addison will make a debut in one of these 3 videos, probably. So if not next week, probably at step number 3. You guys have a great weekend. If you need anything, holler at me.